I remember the chill more than anything. Not just the autumn wind, but the kind that settles in your bones when the veil thins on Halloween night. It was 1977, my first real brush with it, in St. Louis, babysitting for extra cash. The calls came, knowing things no one should. But that was only the start. Over the years, every October 31st brought another shadow. A vanishing woman on Route 66, a masked frenzy in California, whispers in Salem, a soldier's stare in Gettysburg. They weren't random. They built, year by year, pulling me deeper into something ancient, tied to this country's dark corners. Now, at 75, with reports of fresh sightings this Halloween season, I see it clear. These aren't just stories. They're warnings, echoing from the past. I've kept them locked away, afraid the telling would invite them back. But the weight grows heavier each fall, the leaves turning like reminders. I dream of those nights, the air thick with pumpkin rot and unspoken dread. What you're about to hear still keeps me up at night. Before I begin, if you love true American horror stories, go ahead and subscribe to Haunted USA Tales, because this one isn't just a story. It happened. I was born in 1950, in a quiet suburb of Chicago, Illinois, where Halloween meant carved pumpkins on porches and kids in homemade costumes. My folks were factory workers, simple people who loved the holiday for its harmless fun, candy apples, bonfires, ghost tales around the kitchen table. I was the middle child, adventurous, always chasing the next thrill. By my late teens, in the late 60s, I was roaming with friends, toilet papering houses, chanting Bloody Mary in bathroom mirrors for laughs. Life was light back then, the world wide open. After high school, I drifted, odd jobs, traveling sales, anything to see the country. By 1977, at 27, I'd settled in SD. Louis for a spell, young and broke, picking up side gigs. No family yet, just a girl named Clara I'd see on weekends, her smile keeping me grounded. Halloween was my favorite. I'd volunteer for haunted houses, dress as a gal, or babysit for extra cash. St. Louis had its own pulse, an old river town along the Mississippi with a history of floods, forgotten graves, and whispers of haints rising on All Hallows' Eve. Folks said spirits wandered the muddy banks, restless from the city's past, riverboat wrecks, old feuds, unmarked burials. I laughed it off, chalking it up to campfire talk, but the air always felt heavier on Halloween, jack-o'-lanterns flickering like eyes in the dark. I never thought my path would cross 5 shadows over the decades, each one marking me deeper, each Halloween pulling me closer to something I couldn't name. It started innocent enough, a babysitting job in 77. But the signs were there early, strange calls at diners, shadows moving in alleys, a prickle on my neck when I walked alone. I told myself it was just nerves, the thrill of the season. The country was full of such tales, from coast to coast. I never imagined they'd find me, year after year, on the one night when the veil between worlds feels thinnest. Story 1, the SD. Louis calls. Halloween 1977, the first shadow fell in SD. Louis, Halloween night, 1977. I was babysitting for the Martins, a young couple with 2 kids, 8 and 10, in a brick house on the city's edge, where streetlights barely reached. The parents left for a costume party, masks on, laughing under the orange glow of jack-o'-lanterns on the porch. The kids were asleep by 9, tucked in upstairs, the house quiet except for the hum of a radio playing low. I settled on the couch with a cup of coffee, the air smelling of burnt pumpkin and wax. Then the phone rang, sharp and sudden. Picked it up, said hello. Silence at first, then a voice, male, raspy, like gravel in a throat. "Is Tommy there?" My name, but no one knew I was here, not even Clara. Hung up quick, a chill creeping up my spine. Unease settled, but I brushed it off as a prank, kids messing around. 10 minutes later, it rang again. Same voice, slower this time. The kids looked sweet in their beds. My heart stuttered. Check the windows, street empty, leaves swirling under a lone lamp. The kids were fine, sleeping sound, but my hand shook as I locked the doors. Called the police, who said it was probably a neighbor's joke, Halloween nonsense. Then the third call came, just past 10. "I see you by the window," it whispered, low and deliberate. Looked out again, nothing but darkness, the air heavy with damp earth, like a river grave opened. Police check later, traced the calls to an empty house 2 blocks away, door ajar, muddy footprints inside but no one there. I stayed up all night, watching the kids, heart pounding every time the wind tapped the glass. Left at dawn, kids safe, but the confusion stayed, a prickle I couldn't shake. Story 2. The Route 66 Phantom. Halloween 1982 years passed, and I moved west, chasing sales work in Oklahoma by 1982. Halloween found me near Tulsa, driving a lonesome stretch of Route 66 after a late client meeting. The fog rolled in thick that night, my headlights cutting through haze like a knife through smoke. The air smelled of dust and gasoline, the road empty except for the hum of my old Chevy. Then I saw her, a woman in a white dress, thumb out, standing by the shoulder. Her hair hung wet, like she'd been caught in rain, though the sky was clear. Compassion pulled me over. I couldn't leave her out there. She climbed into the passenger seat, silent at first, the air suddenly sharp with lilacs and something else, decay, faint but wrong. Said her name was Mary, voice soft, heading home to a town I didn't know. We talked about the weather, safe things, but her eyes stayed fixed ahead, unblinking. Halfway through a sentence, she was gone. Seat empty, door still locked. A purse sat where she'd been, old leather, zipper rusted. Opened it with trembling hands. Inside, a faded photo of a young woman, dated 1953, her face like the one I'd just seen. Heart raced. I pulled into a diner a mile up, showed it to the waitress. Locals nodded grimly. The phantom hitchhiker of Route 66, tied to a crash decades back, appearing every Halloween to lost drivers. The purse was gone by morning, vanished from my car. Fear crept in deeper, my hands cold on the wheel for weeks. I told myself it was a trick of the light, exhaustion from the road, but the smell of lilacs lingered in my dreams, mixed with that faint rot. Story 3. The Pasadena Masks. Halloween 1993. By 1993, I'd married Clara and had a son, settling into a traveling sales routine. Halloween that year took me to Pasadena, California, for a colleague's costume party. The house was alive with masks and laughter, the air thick with fog machine haze and the sticky sweet scent of candy. I wore a cheap vampire cape, sipping punch, blending in. Around 10, chaos erupted. 5 teens in clown masks burst through the back door, wielding baseball bats, no words, just fury. They beat a young guy senseless, his scream sharp against the music, then vanished into the night. I hid behind the bar, heart pounding, the air heavy with sweat and fear, like a storm breaking inside. Police came, found the masks discarded in an alley, the teens claiming no memory, like they'd been puppets on strings. The kid they attacked whispered later, in the hospital, of voices urging him to step outside alone before it happened. I felt eyes on me all night, even after the cops left, a prickle like SD. Louis again. Confusion turned to dread. It wasn't just a random attack. Something had driven those kids, something old and angry. I denied the connection to the calls, the hitchhiker, but sleep brought echoes, raspy voices, lilac decay, now joined by the metallic tang of fear. Clara noticed my silence when I got home, but I couldn't explain. The shadows were following me, Halloween after Halloween. Story 4, The Salem Whispers, Halloween 2005. By 2005, I'd settled in Massachusetts, near Salem, where the witch trials left scars in the air. Halloween was a spectacle there, lantern-lit tours, costumes, the past alive in every cobblestone. Clara pushed me to visit the witch house, a relic of 1692, its beams creaking with age. I went on Halloween night, the air cold and musty with the scent of old herbs, like sage gone sour. The tour group shuffled through dim rooms, but in the attic, I heard it. Whispers, faint at first, naming people, places, then my name, clear as a bell. The guide laughed, said it was wind through the eaves, but I saw her, a woman in colonial garb, standing in the shadows, eyes locked on mine. Her face was pale, severe, like she knew me. Reached out to ask the guide. She was gone, no trace, but my arm felt icy where she'd stood. Outside, the fog rolled in thick, smelling of smoke, like pyres from centuries past. The prickle from SD. Louis, the decay from Route 66, the fear from Pasadena, they stirred together, undeniable now. I walked home shaking, denial fraying like old rope. The whispers followed in my dreams, naming sins I hadn't committed, tying me to something bigger. Clara held me when I woke, but I couldn't tell her why my hand shook. Halloween was no longer a game. It was a summons. Story 5, The Gettysburg Soldier, Halloween 2019. The final shadow came in 2019, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'd retired, widowed now, Clara gone from cancer. Took a trip to the battlefields, drawn to history's weight. Halloween night, I joined a hayride through the fields, lanterns swaying, the air crisp with hay and fresh-turned earth. Halfway through, I saw him, a soldier in tattered Union blue, walking the trail, rifle slung low. His eyes were hollow, staring straight at me, not an actor, not part of the tour. Staff swore no one was out there, but I saw him, face gaunt, moving through fog that hadn't been there moments before. The air grew heavy, a wave of despair washing over me, pulling like a tide. I wanted to follow, to ask who he was, but the hayride lurched forward, breaking the spell. That night, in my motel, the smells returned, river mud, lilac decay, sweat, herbs, now earth, and gunpowder. The shadows were converging, each Halloween building on the last. Fear wasn't just fear anymore. It was sorrow, confusion, a weight of guilt for things I hadn't done. I felt them watching, waiting, tied to the land's old wounds, murders, betrayals, wars. My denial was gone. These weren't separate hauntings. They were one force, growing stronger each All Hallows Eve. The tension built slow over those decades, each Halloween a step closer to something I couldn't name. The calls knew too much, the hitchhiker vanished too clean, the masks moved too wrong, the whispers cut too deep, the soldier's stare held too much pain. Sensory echoes wove them together, raspy voices in my ear, lilac rot in my nose, sweat-soaked fear, musty herbs, earthy chill. My emotions churned, fear at first, then confusion, denial giving way to sorrow for the unseen, the forgotten. I stopped celebrating Halloween, stayed inside, but the night found me. By 2020, I knew it was coming for me again. The climax hit on Halloween 2020, back in Knoxville, alone in my house. The pandemic had entered the streets, but a storm raged outside, power flickering. I sat in the dark, the air thick with memories. St. Louis calls, Route 66 empty seat, Pasadena's chaos, Salem's whispers, Gettysburg stare. The smells blended, river mud, lilac decay, sweat, herbs, earth, all at once, choking the room. The phone rang, no caller ID, no sound when I answered, just static and a faint rasp. Shadows moved in the hall, though no one was there. Whispers came from events, naming me, naming sins. A figure formed in the living room, shifting, raspy-voiced man, white-dressed woman, masked teen, colonial witch, tattered soldier. Their eyes were one, watching, hollow, pleading. The air turned ice-cold, my breath visible. Dread settled heavy, like the world holding its breath. The figure glided closer, shapes blending, clown mask on a witch's frame, soldier's hands holding a phone, hitchhiker's wet hair under union cap. See us, it breathed, voice led with all their pain. The revelation hit. America's Halloween veil thins, and the forgotten dead rise. Murdered in prank gone wrong, lost in crashes, driven to violence, hanged in trials, fallen in wars. My bloodline was tied, an ancestor in the witch trials, a cousin near Route 66, family in Gettysburg shadow. They weren't separate. They were one force, the land's grief and wrath, demanding witness. It reached for me, hand shifting, cold fingers, calloused palms, claw-like nails. My scar burned, a faint mark on my arm from Salem's icy touch. I confessed to the air, apologies for ancestors, for ignoring, for forgetting. I see you, I whispered, voice breaking. The figure paused, eyes softening, then faded slow, like fog burning off. The storm quieted, power returned, but the aftermath left me hollow, a piece of me gone with them. I survived, but the echoes never left. The scar on my arm, faint as a whisper, itches every October, worse on Halloween. I stay inside now, avoiding the night, the pumpkins, the costumes. My kids, grown and distant, think it's age, not fear. I've told them pieces, enough to explain the locks on my doors come fall. The weight of those nights lives in me, sorrow for the dead, dread of their return. This year, 2025, the reports are everywhere. St. Louis police log prank calls with no source, voices knowing too much. Route 66 drivers post videos of women vanishing from passenger seats. Pasadena has unexplained attacks, teens in masks with no memory. Salem tours report whispers, figures in fog. Gettysburg hayride shut down after panic, soldiers seen walking empty fields. I saw a news clip last week, grainy footage of a figure on a hayride trail, my scar's twin in its shifting form. The veil is thinning again, stronger now, fed by digital eyes. I tell you this because silence invites them back. These aren't just Halloween stories, they're America's wounds, rising when the night opens. The calls, the hitchhiker, the masks, the witch, the soldier, they're one, waiting for the next soul to see. Because some nights don't end, they wait for the next All Hallows Eve.